Yar, ye think you're cut out for this line o' work? What do you know about the murky depths, the deadly monsters, the days at sea with nary a shore in sight? It's a world of unknowns out there. So I've got just one question for you. Would that be 1 sugar or 2? Three cheers for Pink Hawk Games for sponsoring the episode. Hip hip hooray! We're not actually gonna do that 3 times. Moving on. Pirates of the High Teas is an incredible worker placement game that appeals to a wide range of players. Whether you like pirates or pastries, there's something here for you. However, when you've got a game that can appeal to so many different types of people, you'll need a teach that covers it all. So, swab the deck and set the table. It's time to weigh anchor and learn how to teach Pirates of the High Teas. But first, let's get our tea, crumpets, and cannons in shipshape before we set sail. In Pirates of the High Teas, you're going to be serving tea to the captain, which consists of a tea card and 3 dishes. This is the core recipe delivery aspect of the game that we're going to explain before we actually shuffle and deal out cards. As such, we're going to skip some of the setup portions of the game in order to facilitate that explanation. Before you do anything else, you're going to go ahead and grab some example cards. On screen now are the ones I'm going to use for this video, but I'm going to talk about why we're grabbing this set of cards so you don't have to hunt down any cards in particular, because when I have to do that at the table, it makes me want to walk the plank. First, grab a tea of any kind. Doesn't matter which, though I do recommend a tea that wants 3 flags of a specific color. Then find 1 dish that has the flag and flavors listed on the tea card. While you're looking for that card, you also want to keep your eye out for matching dishes, 2 with the right flavors but the wrong flag, and vice versa. I will get into more detail on why we're picking those cards later once we get into the teach, especially for those of you who don't learn how to play the game before watching my videos. Honestly, I don't know why you'd watch a video on how to teach a game you don't know how to play. It's kind of like a reverse mermaid. There's a reason you should do it the other way around. Like I said earlier, I don't shuffle the decks of cards and deal them out, as we're going to do that after our tea serving explanation. However, you should totally set out the cards in the tea tin and in the pantry. And when you do this, you're going to put the tea cards above the board and you're going to put the dish cards below the board. This is going to line up with the markers on the board and is going to help you out by giving you some matching icons to point at during your teach. I also like to leave out the gear tokens just off to the side or in the box, especially when using this game as a gateway game. Once they hit the table though, you'll put the gear to the front of the ship, next to the smuggler's hold, and the doubloons can come out. You can grab those, especially if you have the deluxe version with their metal coins. Everybody loves metal coins. These are going to go on the back of the ship, and the placement of all these components is going to help reinforce the teach that you do here in a bit. You can go ahead and give everybody their player board and their pirate meeple, or meeples, depending on your player count. I also recommend making sure that you're dealing out these player boards the right side up, as the other side is for the solo mode. However, we're going to skip establishing turn order like it says in the rulebook, as we are going to use the act of putting your meeple onto the turn order spaces as part of our teach later. Now it's time to let the wind catch our sails and get this journey set off right by setting our big 3. As with every game, the worst thing you can do is start off on the wrong foot. That's why pirates had to get peg legs. So, to prevent such a horrible fate, I recommend starting each teach by setting the big 3. Set the stage, set the goal, and set the expectations. Setting the stage is all about thematics and theatrics to get everyone excited to play. Once everyone's at the table, it's time to do your best pirate voice. Everyone has one, and if you're bad at doing a pirate voice, that's even better. Just lean into it. Yar. As you recount the tales of how you conquered the 7 seas, krakens, and actually killing the white whale from Moby Dick, it honestly wasn't that hard, Ahab, you'll explain that the only thing left to conquer is afternoon tea. Depending on your group, you'll want one of 2 types of music. Either dainty hoity-toity tea time music, you know the type, or blast the Pirates of the Caribbean soundtrack. You knew it was coming. Once you've set the stage, it's time to set the goal. Setting the goal is all about objectives and immediate actions. What are your long-term and short-term objectives? In this game, just like real life, pirates are all about plundering that booty. When setting the goal for Pirates of the High Teas, you're gonna grab those cards you got out earlier in order to demonstrate how serving tea works and how that earns you doubloons, which ultimately determines the winner of the game. First off, you're going to point to the captain's quarters in the back of the ship and say that the captain is in there waiting for their afternoon tea. Once everyone's primed to learn about serving tea, you can break down how serving tea and smashing dishes works. Here's an example of how that'll look at the table. Also, feel free to point at extra examples of icons using the pantry and tea tin cards as you go. When you serve tea to the captain, you're always going to give them 1 tea and 3 dishes, and then they'll give you doubloons based on how well you did. Just like real life, whichever pirate has the most doubloons at the end of the game is the winner. You'll get more doubloons by matching the dishes to the tea that you're serving. This comes down to 2 things: your flavor palette for the dishes, and the flags on the dishes, which represent the fleet of ships you probably stole all that tea from. If you look at the top of the tea card here, you'll notice that there are 3 flavors, and below that, there are 3 flags. These are the flavors and colors of flags that you're looking to match between your dishes when you go to serve tea. You can do one or the other, only earning the doubloons shown on the matching side, but you'll get the higher value in the middle if you manage to do both at the same time. If your dishes don't have the right flags or flavors, then you just can't serve the captain. It'll put him in a bad mood, and honestly, it'll just kill the vibe of pirate tea time. The dishes each have 1 or more of the 3 flavors: salty, fruity, and chocolatey, and each will have a flag that's one of 4 colors. Once you're ready to serve tea, you'll take the dishes and tea from your hand and then read out the lovely tea time that you've cooked up. It's at this point where you're going to want to really be paying attention to what cards you're putting out as your examples and reading out the names of dishes and tea that you're playing to really hammer in the theme as well. A lot of the dishes are puns, and they're incredibly illustrated as well. Also, when setting out your first example, you'll want to put out your dish that matches both the flag and flavor, and then the 2 dishes that don't match the flag. Once you do, you can move on with your spiel. This is an example of serving tea to the captain. I've got this silver needle tea paired with salted chocolate cherry bombs, mini quiche, and fluffernutter. Because I matched only the flavor, I'm only gonna get 3 doubloons for the tea. I'm also going to get doubloons based on how much each dish is worth to the captain as shown here. So by serving this tea with these dishes, I'd get 8 doubloons. However, we're pirates, we don't have to play by the rules. So if you don't have the right flavors or flags, just smash together the dishes. To smash a dish, you'll stack them like this so that the flavors are showing from the bottommost card, but not the doubloons or the flag, as those have been smashed away. Then you'll check the fully visible card in the stack for the flag and all the flavors showing on each dish in the stack. You can do this as many times as you want, provided you've got the cards in your hand to do so. Now that you've smashed these dishes together, they count for both the flavor and the flag, meaning that you'll get the bonus for doing both. Once you're done serving, you'll collect your doubloons. Serving tea is the most important part of the game, so it's critical to start with it, as everything you're going to explain from here on out will relate back to this initial example. So I've included a little blurb on the teacher's guide that'll give you the step-by-step instructions on how to introduce serving tea to your friends and family. Oh yeah, the teacher's guide. This is a free summary of this very video that you can save to your phone, or even better, print it out and leave it in the box so you're ready to teach the game the next time you go to play. It's got everything you need to give a killer teach in a step-by-step format. There's a link below in the lower deck where you can get it for free, and I'll give you another reminder about it at the end of the video. On to setting expectations. This is all about making sure that everyone at the table has the right idea of the type of game they're about to play. Pirates of the High Teas features a lot of drafting, and with any drafting game, there's an endless amount of times that you're going to see something that you want and then you won't get it for whatever reason. It's best to remind people of that fact ahead of time and to not get your hopes up for any particular card unless it's actually your turn. I also would say that Pirates of the High Teas has a lot of ways to see a ton of cards on your turn, so even if some rapscallion stole the tea you wanted, there's still plenty of opportunities to find what you need. It's a really forgiving game in that regard. Once you set your big 3, it's on to the teach. Yo-ho! We've already covered the most important thing when setting our big 3, which was serving tea, and as you move forward with the rest of your teach, we're going to use that as our anchor for explaining everything else. The first thing that we can do now that we've gotten everyone up to speed on the rules of tea time is shuffle out and deal everyone's starting cards. I would shuffle in the dishes that you used in your example, but just leave the supply alone, and I just placed the tea card somewhere in the middle of the stack without shuffling it. That's fine. But wait! What's this weird symbol under the tea I was just dealt? Yes, as with every recipe delivery game, there are just a handful of icons that will need to be explained to everyone one at a time as they come up. Sometimes players will figure these out on their own, but what I recommend is, before anyone even has the chance to bring it up, I would first point out any of these symbols that are currently visible in the pantry, and I would also encourage you to pull out the rulebook and put it face down and point out the icon reference that's on the back. Then I would just let anyone who has a question about what one of the icons on their teas mean to check for themselves if they don't want to give away what kind of card they have. Because players can draw face down, it's likely that someone's going to get an icon that the whole table hasn't seen before at some point. So bringing these up as soon as possible is best. Now we're on to the worker placement and action selection part of the game. Before we move on though, everyone will need to put their meeple onto the upper deck in turn order, front to back. Whoever drank tea the most recently goes first, and then it's just clockwise there from then. Oh, this isn't tea. Please, I have class. It's at this point we'll talk about the structure of a round, and as you do, I would physically move people's pirate meeples as you explain this part. From front to back, we're going to place our meeples down on the actions that we want to take. As we are polite pirates, at least to each other, you'll wait for everyone to choose their action before moving on. Then, from front to back again, we resolve those actions one at a time. After you resolve your action, you move up to the first available spot in the upper deck, which will give us our new turn order for the round. I would bring up at this point that even if you're going last in this round, each round the turn order will be determined by the actions everyone took in the previous round. So the greedier everyone else gets, the further forward in line you might be. There are 3 parts of the ship you'll need to explain: the smuggler's hold, where you get the tea, the galley, where you get the dishes, and the captain's quarters, where, you guessed it, you serve the captain and get doubloons. It's at this point in the teach where we go into how each of these action spaces work. Below each of the action spaces is a number, and that number represents how many times you get to take the action at that location. Let's start at the back of the ship, which is the captain's quarters. This is where you go to serve tea, just like we talked about. 1 tea, 3 dishes. After you serve tea, there's a little bonus you get as well for a job well done in the form of either a tea or a dish card, depending on which space you choose. In the smuggler's hold and the galley, you can draft a number of tea and dish cards respectively. I use my own meeple as an example by physically moving it to the galley and into the smuggler's hold to physically demonstrate the drafting mechanics before we dive into these hexagonal tokens, which are called gear. Since gear is so closely related to drafting, we have to explain how gear works after we get the basics of drafting out of the way first. I'm keeping it. Once you've gotten drafting down and given some brief examples, if needed, it is now time to talk about gear. I use the smuggler's hold to explain gear, as it allows you to draw 1 tea card or a gear token. Monkeys and parrots and cannons, oh my! These are the 3 types of gear token in Pirates of the High Teas, and they're all super simple. As you explain these, you can start dealing them out to people like you would normally do in the setup. The first thing I like to explain is that gear can be used at any time on your turn, and as many times as you've got the tokens for. If you've got like 5 monkeys and it's your turn, you can use them all back to back to back to back to back. It's at this point in your teach you'll give the rundown of all the gear tokens, but I'll explain them briefly here for those of you who haven't read the true treasure map of board games, the rulebook. The monkey gives you the top card of either deck. That's because they're good at getting where they need to go, but they are bad at listening to directions, so you don't know what card you're gonna get. The parrot carries a card to the captain, discarding it, and then will bring you back the doubloons listed on the bottom right of the card. And the cannon blows up the cards in your location, discarding and refilling the entire tea or dish row depending on which action you're taking. Once players know how each type of gear token works, you can point out how the smuggler's hold gives you the option of taking a gear token instead of a tea as an action, and some spaces in the galley give you an additional gear token just for going to those spaces. With that, you're ready to start putting your meeples into the ship. Have the first player move theirs to the space that they want, though make sure that they are aware that they currently don't have enough cards in their hand to serve tea, so a trip to the captain's quarter would likely just end with them wasting their turn. Once everyone's where they want to be, resolve those actions. Gentle guidance here and there about when players might want to use their tokens is great for newer players who don't have their tea legs yet. And if you want the game to run smoothly, get the players at the table in the habit of signaling the end of their turn by moving their meeple back up to their new spot on the upper deck for the next round. It's both a good way to indicate whose turn it currently is, but it's also really easy to forget, so you, as the teacher, will need to watch out for that. Once you make it to the end of the first round, you'll explain the basics of the cleanup step, including things like your hand size limit. Then, you can congratulate everyone for making it through their first round of Pirates of the High Teas. It's at this point I would check in to make sure everyone's on board with how serving tea, actions, and gear all work. Assuming no one's got rule scurvy, it is on to round 2. It's at this point you can explain the round tracker at the top of the board and how the game ends at the end of the 9th round. In this second round, if you happen to flip a round tracker that gives players a bonus, you can go ahead and explain how those bonuses work and deal out whatever's shown. However, if I flip a blank tile in the first round, I just leave it as a surprise for later. It'll make for a cooler moment that'll help everyone remember better. Once you've got all that down, you've got favorable wins until round 4, where we'll need to bring up some final rules for Pirates of the High Teas. In round 4, assuming you're playing with 3 to 4 players, you're going to explain that starting after the upcoming round, serving the captain can be done twice on your turn. You don't have to serve tea twice, you can still just do it once, but if you want to do it twice, you'll need at least 6 dish cards and 2 tea cards, which is 8 out of the 10 cards you can have in your hand by the end of the round. When you hit this round, I also start bringing up how the end of the game is going to go. Round 9 works just like all the other rounds, however you may have noticed that there's probably more players than there are spaces in the captain's quarters. This means that it's basically guaranteed that not everyone can serve tea to the captain in the final round. On a related note, cards aren't worth any points if they're stuck in your hand at the end of the game. But that's okay. At this midway point through the game, players can be informed that before the final scores are summed up, you get one final chance to earn some doubloons by serving the crew instead. They're not as wealthy as the captain, so you'll only earn half the doubloons rounded down, but hey, points are points. Plus, you can do this as many times as you've got cards to do so, plus you can burn extra gear tokens at this point as well, using your parrots and monkeys to sell or get extra cards. You'll want to make that point about not everyone getting to serve the captain in the last round, and that serving the crew will only give you half points really clearly. I usually give a reminder for more competitive groups about all this endgame stuff at the top of the 7th round, as that's about how early you need to start thinking about your position in turn order for the final round. Granted, that only really matters if you think you'll be able to serve enough during the final round to make it worth it, so make sure your hardcore gamer friends keep all that in mind. And that's where your first game ends. However, that was just your maiden voyage. Let's learn how to teach the advanced mode featuring captains and their exclusive tastes and rewards, and we'll add a bottle of rum in while we're at it. Tea time just got a lot more interesting, as the Pearl Grey is now host to a conclave of pirate captains. In this advanced mode, you'll be adding the captain rewards. These are extra conditions that you can meet in order to receive a bonus when serving the captain. I should have put these out first. Each of the captains gives their own unique reward, which are all outlined in the rulebook, and I'd like to think that they're all pretty self-explanatory once you know how the game works. As long as you're not putting the captains out with someone's first game, everyone should be pretty familiar with all the icons. All you've got to explain is how when you go to serve the captain, you check to see if there's a captain of which you meet the requirements for with your dishes. If there's more than one, choose one and gain their reward in addition to the doubloons you're getting for your tea and dishes. If you don't meet their requirements, then you just serve tea like normal. Easy teachy. However, if you're feeling spicy and have players with a lot of experience with games at your table, this honestly isn't the hardest optional mode to introduce in the middle of their first game. If you want to bust it out for their introductory experience, I recommend introducing the captains during round 3 or 4, which is right around where everyone just served their first tea and is working on their second one. A wise pirate once said, "A spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down." And in this case, the sugar and the medicine is rum. The Bottles of Rum mini expansion is great for adding just another wrinkle to your Pirates of the High Teas experience. There are 2 ways to play with the Bottle of Rum expansion: Raj's Reserve and Claim the Cask, both of which add a modification to the captains from the base game. While I personally find Raj's Reserve to be more interesting, I think Claim the Cask is better for introducing new players to the mechanic. If you're playing with this expansion, you'll obviously need to start by explaining what the rum does in Pirates of the High Teas. When you go to serve the captain, you can slip a little rum in with your service in order for the captain to allow one mistake, either a messed up flag or a single dish that's missing the flavor it needs. Does this work because your masterful application of a strong alcoholic substance is able to overcome the flavor palate preferences of the captain? Or do they just get too tipsy to care? Who's to say? Regardless, you get a freebie mistake. Now, you can't use 2 rum tokens at a time, as that would overpower the tea, obviously, and it also counts towards your gear limit. Unlike other gear though, you can't just get rum through normal means. Each player starts with 1 rum token at the beginning of the game, regardless of which mode you're using, and for Claim the Cask, you'll put an additional rum token out next to all of the captains. Now when you meet the requirements, you can claim the cask and take the rum token instead of the captain's reward. You're now fully ready to teach Pirates of the High Teas to all your mateys. However, that's not the end of the story. What's the point of knowing how to teach the game if you can't even get them to play it in the first place? Let's learn how to get Pirates of the High Teas to the table. Obviously, this game is steeped in charm and covers a lot of bases. Pirates, pastries, yar! It's got something for a lot of different types of players. Depending on the preferences of the person you're putting it in front of, you'll want to lean into one of its many strengths. For your hardcore gaming friends, the worker placement turn order shuffle is one of the best initial hooks that this game has to offer. There's just enough interaction between other players based on what spaces you're blocking and the order that you're going in from round to round that you'll be checking the table constantly for what other people might have up their sleeves. On the flip side, there's no take that or massive random elements that will cause you grief either. In addition to all of that, if you've played Knitting Circle, another game by the same designer, which I also highly recommend, you'll know that she loves to put in tons of options or paths you can take through your turn. In this game, that takes the form of smashing dishes and the gear tokens. There are endless ways you can mix and match these in order to push your advantage, including gaining tokens and then immediately using them within the same turn. If you need to fish for a really specific dish card, there's nothing stopping you from burning 3 cannons to see like 15 different cards in one turn. And all that is on top of the smashing mechanics, which alleviates a lot of the frustration that other recipe delivery games often suffer from. On the other side of the doubloon, you've got your casual players. The simple gameplay loop of collecting cards and serving tea, combined with the relatively small number of types of actions you can take on your turn, make this game accessible to a surprisingly large audience. I can easily recommend this as your next gateway game for those of you who have friends and family afraid of anything more complex than Catan. And if you've got someone who's only in it for the theme and the setting, fortunately for you, the art in this game is gorgeous and the creativity on display with the dishes cannot be understated. I'm particularly fond of the ahoysters and scurvy dogs. Every dish has been lovingly illustrated, and if you splurge for the golden ganache cards, they're even more stunning. Plus, the smashing mechanic can lead to some hilarious table talk as you talk about the monstrosities you created for the sake of chasing treasure. Regardless, you will end this game hungrier than when you started. Ultimately, Pirates of the High Teas has a fairly straightforward teach that, once you've got it down, goes by super quick. You can get this one up and running in minutes without sacrificing any depth in the process. It's a jolly good time to teach. Avast! It's the teacher's guide. This treasure map contains literally everything you need at the table to teach Pirates of the High Teas. It's got an easy to follow step-by-step format, and you can print it out, fold it up, and leave it in the box for the next time you play, meaning you won't have to drop anchor to rewatch this video before you're ready to play. Even better, it's free. It's linked down below on my public Patreon page where you can download it to your heart's content. A colossal thank you to Pink Hockey Games for sponsoring this episode. I've been a big fan of their company from day one, and I've worked with them on a few projects before, including animating the video for Pirates of the High Teas. I did that. And looky, my name's in the rulebook. It's spelled right and everything. I do feel specially thanked. And a special thanks to all my Patreon supporters. This patient bunch helps with keeping this ship afloat so that I can continue to find opportunities to bring you more How to Teach episodes. While the seas may be choppy and the waves reaching far above the crow's nest, I hope that I can always sail my way back here for you guys. Y'all are great, and I can't thank you enough for your ongoing support. And with that, we've reached the end of the episode, so thank you for watching. Now go! Set sail, serve tea, and smash together monstrosities! Okay, now I need to go dump this out because it's spray painted and I can't drink from it without dying. All right, well, whatever that take was is gonna have to be the one because I'm not opening another can of Mountain Dew. I 3D printed this, like it's not a real cup. I wish it was a real cup. I wanted to smash it at some point, but I couldn't.